Hello and welcome to day 8 of the Floral Craft Countdown, where I'm showing you how to make 14 different flower-themed Cricut paper craft projects in 14 days. Today's project is the stunning Bluebell Woods shadow box, and the back of my frame just fell off because I haven't actually closed it up properly, but you still get the idea here of what it looks like. There is absolutely tons of depth in this shadow box design. It's absolutely gorgeous. The SVG is free to download today only, so let's find out where to get it. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the Floral Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/floral. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you have missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/floral bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Floral Craft Countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. The download comes in a zip folder. You will need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. Here's how the Bluebell Woods shadow box design loads into Cricut Design Space. If you're not sure how to get to this stage, then check out the Foundation Learning section of this Craft Countdown, where there's a link to a separate tutorial and video on how to upload SVG cut files into Cricut Design Space. This is probably going to be one of the quickest Design Space sections of the whole countdown. The only thing you need to do is to size this to make sure it's going to fit inside your frame. I will show you how to measure your frame in just a second, but once you know the measurement, here is how to change it. So you would click on the design and then make sure the padlock icon above the width and the height boxes is closed. If yours is open, click it to close it. And then simply resize either the width or the height. I'm doing 6.5 inches, which is the size of my shadow box. Press enter on the keyboard and the other measurement will change in proportion. So it should always stay the same width as it is in the height. And that's it. We can click make. Super easy. This will separate out all of the different colors. You can change the paper size in here. And if you want to, you can click and drag to move things about to take up less space on your cardstock. Just remember not to overlap anything like that, otherwise it won't cut out properly. You will need to do that change for every single colour, so go ahead and get that looking as you want it to. One little sneaky thing you can do is you can add little shapes into the bits that are going to be cut out of the other layers to avoid using up the rest of the space on your cardstock. When you're happy with how it's all looking, press continue to connect to your Cricut machine, then follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut out from cardstock. Here's how to measure your shadow box frame so that you know how big to make the design in Cricut Design Space. So I've already opened up my frame and I've taken the glass out of it. And then inside your frame, you should have a wooden spacer if you're using a shadow box, and also the back of the frame here, which has the little bit on there. So you can either measure from one outside of the frame all the way to the other. And if I just do that now, all the way from one to the other, that comes out at 6.5 inches. Or you can measure the back of your frame, again, all the way from the left to all the way on the right. If you line your ruler up like this along the bottom, it means you know that you're straight, so you're going to get an accurate measurement. Again, that's 6.5 inches. So that's the size I've cut out the Bluebell Woods shadow box design. Here it is. It's super thick already because there are a lot of pieces in this design. Don't forget this little dark circle, which is going to go right at the bottom to make up the birds. We'll stick this together with a combination of glue and foam squares. The glue I'm using is Bearly Art Glue, which I got on Amazon. It's a little tricky to find in the UK, but it's more readily available in the US. Another great glue, which is easier to find in the UK, but harder to find in the US, is Collall. Both of these are my two favourite glues because they don't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. And then we'll also need some foam squares. I'm using these ones from Dot and Dab, but any will do. Just if yours are really big, you might need to cut them smaller with some scissors. Alright, I'm going to zoom in a little so it's a bit easier to see what I'm doing. And then we can start sticking this together. I've laid all the pieces following the assembly guide that's included in your download folder. And then I'm going to carefully move that apart because I don't want to drop all those little bluebell pieces. And then move everything else to one side until we end up at the bottom. Oops, that's obviously in the wrong place. So I was following along with the assembly guide, but apparently I missed one. I'll work that out a bit later. Alright, so we've got this bit at the very bottom with the little tiny bird cutouts. Turn that upside down. And then get your glue and just put a little bit of glue around the edge of those birds. Take the dark circle and put it over the top. And that will fill those in like that. It was just much easier than cutting these out and trying to stick on those tiny pieces. Next, we've got this piece, which will be a foam square layer. So I'll turn it upside down and then we'll add the foam squares to the back. This one, I'm actually going to use some slightly larger foam squares just so it's a bit quicker. You want to make sure that you put your foam around the edge, not just in the corners, because if you only put it in the corners, it's got nothing else to hold it stable when all the other pieces are put on top. So we want a good amount of foam squares on here. And then as well as putting it around the edge, I'm also going to put some in the middle for that same reason. We want to give it a nice, firm, level kind of table or platform for it to sit nice and straight and flat. Now I can peel the tops off of those foam squares to reveal the stickiness underneath. Alright, time to stick this on. Use one of the corners to get it lined up. And then gently drop it down. That means if you hadn't quite lined it up right, you could pick it up and move it without damaging anything. And I am actually not quite happy with that, so I'm going to start again. It's important to get your layers as lined up as accurately as you can, because remember we've measured this to the exact size of the frame. So if we go over the edges, then it won't fit. And there's that one. Alright, next we've got this piece on the top giving up a little bit more depth, and this will also be a foam square layer. Once again, line it up. Make sure your edges are nice and straight. Gently drop down and then push down when you're happy. Next we have this, which is making up the trunks of those back trees. This one is a glue layer. Next is this light purple layer making up the hill in front of those tree trunks. So this will be foam squared. Right, now before this gets too deep, I'm going to put this little circle in with my foam square in there. And then next we've got the very bottom layer of the leaves on the tree, which is a glue layer. Next we've got this little piece, which is the tree trunk, and again this one is just glued. Just to place that on there. Can line it up with those wiggly bits on the left hand side, just in here, to know where to put it. Okay, next is this one, and this will be a foam square layer, but you want to be careful. You can see I had problems with this card tearing. That is a right odd mess on the back. So I use my big foam squares around the edge, but some smaller ones in the petals because you don't want to add your foam over any of these tiny gaps in the leaves. Did I just say petals? Definitely meant leaves. Because if your foam goes over any of those holes, you'll be able to see it from the front, which we definitely don't want. That would look a little bit messy. So just a few more of these big ones. Here we are. And one in there. Then I'll switch to my smaller foam squares just to try and get a little bit of depth in here. If your foam squares are still too big, just take a pair of scissors and cut a few of them smaller. You don't need too many in here, just a few. I'm going to need some smaller ones. I've got some that I've already cut in half. Just to fill in a few more. Okay, there. And that should be okay. It's very hard to peel the tops off of these tiny ones, but we'll get there eventually. Right, there's that. And then we've got one more leaf layer up here, which will also foam square. And again, I'll need my little pieces for in between the leaves. This one's a bit easier as the gaps are bigger between the leaves. We've got a little bit of a break from the foam squares with the next two layers, starting off with this creamy coloured layer, which will make up the paths leading through the wood. And then the pale green on top. My card did actually tear a little bit here where the edge of the path is meeting the rest of the green. It shouldn't matter. When it's stuck down, no one will notice. I'm also going to glue the next two layers, which is the light purple followed by the dark purple. This is making up the kind of illusion of having all those bluebells in the woodland. I've got a little bit in there that I haven't poked out, and there we go. Right, there's that one on there. And then the darker one to go on top. This is already really thick. Oh, it doesn't quite stand up by itself. I think it probably will by the time it's finished. Okay, we're moving on to the thinner, smaller layers now. And let's move these bluebell pieces out the way. We've got this one here making up the very backs of those stems and some of the greenery. And this one, let's do some foam squares. You probably could get away with gluing this one if you prefer, but I want to add a little bit more depth. And I'll need my smaller foam squares just to go inside each of those flowers. You can tell this is a lot of layers because this was a new sheet when I started this project. I've only got 5 left. Never mind. It's worth it to make a beautiful craft. I'm not even going to try and get any in that little fan. Right. Let's get this one on. There we go. And then next is this one. This one can be glued Now I've got the one that I accidentally had in the wrong place. I think we'll glue this one too. It is a lot of greens in this design, but I think it's worth it when it's all put together to get all these different colours. And then the final big layer is the frame. This will again be glued. Right, that's all the frame bits done. Was I right when it stand up by itself? Oh, not quite. All right, now we can add these bluebells on. And for these, I think it's going to be easier to add the foam squares directly onto the existing shadow box. There's those, and then the very last pieces are the darker bits, just to give a bit of detail. I'm just going to put the thinnest line of glue down the middle of these. You could put the glue on the backs of the bits of darker card too. Right, that is all of that done. Put the lid back in my glue. And then we can see about putting it in the frame. So I've got my frame here. I've taken out the spacer. Now you would put the glass in, make sure you give it a good old clean first. I'm not going to do the glass because it would just reflect to my camera lights. And then this should just fit beautifully inside the frame. Oops, move up. This is a frame I use for testing all my designs, and it's a bit broken, which is why I've only got one of the little metal bits still on there. I'll plop that in. Perfect fit. Just going to check I didn't move any of those bits because the glue is still wet. Look how pretty that is. Okay, so then I would add the back of the frame, and this is actually quite a thick design, so that would be okay to just close up my sad little one remaining tab and it would be fine. But if your frame is thicker, you might find that you've still got quite a lot of space in the back, and when you close this, everything wibbles and wobbles around. And a way to fix that that's quite quick and easy is to get just some old cardboard packaging from a delivery you've received. This is quite thick card, and just cut it roughly to size of your box and just lay either 1 or 2 or however many you need pieces in the back of there, and that will help bring out the back, make it a little bit deeper so that the back of your frame goes on a little neater. But my one is actually fine. And we'll just have another look. There's so many layers in here. Trying to get to show you. It's really, really pretty, and that will look beautiful when it's hung up on your wall. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make a Bluebell Woods shadow box. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut paper crafts. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 9 of the Floral Craft Countdown. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye!